Thanks for coming. I anticipated, because I got a lot of feedback about some folks who won't be able to make it, so we're recording the event. We also have someone who just finished his doctorate, and I'll explain that a little bit more. But basically, these are my fraternity brothers. I teach here at Cal State Long Beach. My name is Brandon Gamble. I've been teaching here for 10 years. But I've had many conversations with young folks about getting into graduate school. Here on campus or fraternity events around the state. So I wanted to put together a panel of people I know who've gone to graduate school and been successful. So thanks for coming. We have Dr. Brian Rodriguez from the Graduate Resource Center. He's just going to give a few words about the Graduate Resource Center. Sure. And saying that it's a real great addition to the university. So.
Sure. Should I stand here?
Right there. Right there. Perfect.
Okay. So my name is Brian Rodriguez. I direct the Graduate Studies Resource Center. Very quickly, just want to share some of the different resources and services that we offer through our center, which is located up on the 5th floor of the library. So some of the work that we do really is designed. The work that we do is really designed to preparing students for the application process for graduate studies, and then also supporting them once they're here. Really what that means is, regardless of where you are in the process of learning about grad school, if you're preparing for the process, in all likelihood have some type of service or resource that can support you on that path. And so, for example, some of the work that we do is related to really helping students learn what grad school is all about, really demystifying the process, the application process. We help students with writing their statement of purpose. We also help them with putting together their CV or their academic resume for grad school. We also have a very low-cost GRE prep class that we offer through the center, which is basically 5 class sessions for 3 hours each. It's a total of 15 hours instruction time. It's $65, which is as cheap as you'll find it anywhere. I often laugh when I tell students that if you can find the class cheaper anywhere, where else you can take the class for free. And so that's something that we do through our center is low-cost GRE prep. And so once students are already here, and once they've been accepted to graduate studies, they can also take advantage of our graduate writing support, which is really designed for our post-bac students, meaning credential, doctoral, master's, and certificate students, pretty much with any type of writing that they need help with. So that can be a thesis, that can be a class paper, that can be their statement of purpose, really anything. It can be a research project. And so we just started that. And so students can make an appointment with us. We do 45-minute one-on-one appointments for both the graduate writing support or also just general graduate advising. So if you are interested in learning more about graduate studies, programs to apply for, funding, which is a big deal for a lot of our students, you can drop on by, make an appointment with us. We're located up on the 5th floor of the library.
Thank you. So, I'd like to provide some bit of context of why our fraternity would want to be so involved with this. And really, it goes all the way back to the founders of our fraternity, and I'll just speak on that briefly. 5 of the 10 went to graduate school. And this was they started as undergraduates in 1911 in the state of Indiana. And they were African American men at a time when African American men were very likely to have all kinds of difficulty like they do today, but matriculating to the campus, they weren't allowed to sit up front. They weren't allowed to take notes from the professors, and so they bonded together to help each other through school and continue to support each other throughout that. And that's what we believe in. The fundamental purpose is achievement. So, that said, I'd like to introduce our panel, and I'll start with my good friend, Dr. Sirls. Dr. Reginald Sirls, he went to San Jose State for his Bachelor of Arts degree in Women's Studies at Cal State Dominguez Hills for his Master's degree in Education and Curriculum. He also has Administrative Services credential and Teacher credential, and he earned his doctorate degree from Pepperdine University. When I met him, he was working on his doctorate degree, so that was very inspiring to me to go on and earn my doctorate as well. He currently works as the Executive Director of Secondary Education for Inglewood Unified School District, and he was a past principal of Morningside High School, Monroe Middle School, and Warren Lane Elementary Schools, all in Inglewood. And when he was an undergrad, his aspirations were that he was undecided going to college, but he had a feeling for teaching, and he worked as a teacher's assistant during the summer and got a good sense of the pride of working with young people. He had relatives, including his older brother, who were in education as teachers or counselors, and they also helped form his career direction. The next person I want to introduce is our newest doctor by Skype, Dr. James Johnson. He's a Cal State Long Beach graduate, and he earned his bachelor's and his master's degree here. Yeah?
Bachelor's and master's.
That's right. And he recently finished at the University of Illinois Champaign with his PhD. And tell us about your concentration for your PhD.
The PhD was Mass Communication with Media Arts, but it focused on Black women and their lived experiences online with online data.
So, what did you want to study when you were an undergraduate? What were you thinking about?
Originally, I came in as an engineer, so I was going to, do the game. This was before gaming was popular.
Okay.
But I really didn't have a focus, so I came in as a computer engineer, changed my major a few times, and ended up as a criminal justice major, hoping to become a lawyer. So.
Wow. Then you ended up in ed tech.
And I ended up in ed tech because I tried out real estate after graduation, and that reality when you have a degree but the job market says okay, that's nice. So I tried out real estate. The real estate bubble popped around 2008.
Yeah.
And I said, let me go back to school, and I went ahead and went into educational technology.
All right. Thank you. Dr. Stanley Johnson. He went to UCLA for his bachelor's degree and Loyola Marymount for his master's degree, and then back to UCLA for his PhD. He's worked as a principal in Oakland, and he's an administrator for LA County, and he wanted to be an English professor in his undergraduate years. All right. And finally, my good friend, Keyon Anderson. I met Keyon when he was in high school, so to see him now on his way to graduate school. He attended Cal State Long Beach for his bachelor's in social work, also his master's in social work, with credential to work in schools. It's called a PPS credential. And he's earning his doctorate degree at the University of Southern California in educational leadership, the same doctoral program I went to. So he's worked with CalSOAP here in Long Beach, California Student Opportunity and Access Program, and he's looking forward to becoming a professor at Cal State Long Beach in the School of Social Work and working as an independent consultant. Did you always want to do social work?
I came in as a business and finance major. I wanted to make a lot of money, and kind of like his experience, I started out and I was like, this is not what's going to work.
There we go. There we go. So, introduce the panelists. I have some questions for the panel. And the first one, and
Can we find out about the
sure. And
I agree.
hey, if you can,
Are you current students?
what's the?
Yes.
And what year or what program?
I'm in linguistics right now, but I'm trying to switch to psychology.
Okay.
So this is my third semester as a transfer student.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. Glad you can make it for us. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, definitely important to look at graduate school, if you're a psychology major, I was a psychology major. I just went and visited my alma mater in Alabama, talked to the psychology department, had kind of the same talk, encourage people to go to graduate school. So, all right. So, I think this is a good question to start off with. How did you get into graduate school? You can start with Dr. Sirls and move on down.
My first experience with graduate school was for my master's. I went to KAPsi and I got into it rather easily. We had a person, a representative from the school, who came to our district and was doing a presentation on the programs they had. And I thought that, it was a good fit for me at the time because you have to balance your work with education. Because as an educator, the learning process never stops. Yeah, Mr. Johnson down there. We continue to be exposed to learning opportunities, which we like them, and it helps us grow. So at that time, I had been teaching for a number of years at the secondary level. And when I found out about this program at KAPsi, I went and checked it out, read the literature, talked to an advisor, and then enrolled immediately. It sounded like a good opportunity. And as you're going through the program, you learn not only the content that you're there for, but different opportunities that it presents to you in your field of work. And mine, of course, was education. So I got my master's in educational curriculum, and it helped me tremendously move forward. I immediately got my administrative credential after that, within a year. And since then, I've been as an administrator or district manager. And I think if I had not gone to graduate school at that time, I would not be in my position where I am right now.
Brother Johnson, how did you get to graduate school?
How did I get into graduate school? Again, I think for me, coming into school in general, I was just a kid from the Bay Area, and I wasn't really, I wouldn't say restrained, but as far as school was just the next step. And then finally, once I graduated, came in contact with a few other people who actually took me underneath their wing, and they had a PhD and things like that. So I began to see the other side. So when things didn't work out around 2007, I was actually able to, I had the opportunity to look at programs, and I became I enrolled in educational technology because a few of my co-workers at the time, as a student worker, mentioned educational technology. And I didn't even know you can be blended to at the time, but came in and I started working in the university environment. And then as I'm working as an educational technologist, people are just saying, "Oh, James, you're smart, and you know what, you need to get a PhD." And I was like, "Whoa, PhD?" I was happy just to have, my BS. So finally, I got my master's, and then a few of my bosses encouraged me to go pursue my PhD. They said you have to be a part of the club while you're talking to these people about their curriculum and their pedagogy. You need to be able to speak the languages. So here I am. And I've also had a mentor, Dr. Robin Lee. She used to work at Cal State Long Beach, and so she was also one of those that pushed me in this direction, and also from fraternity brothers who also gave me that visual representation of what was possible. So that's how I ended up in graduate school.
Right. With Stanley Johnson.
For me, it's a little different, almost similar to Brother Sirls. When I was an undergrad, I initially was an English major, and I studied English and thought that that's what I was going to do my PhD in, hence wanted to be an English professor, right? So I had prepared and did really well, and I was going to go to Yale University to study English, or English literature specifically. But I ended up doing Teach for America because I wasn't sure if I really wanted to leave and go to like UVA. I mean, I'm from California. That's a huge contrast, like coming from the West Coast, moving all over there, and did Teach for America. And while we were in Teach for America, it was like my very first year teaching, and so you also had to simultaneously complete your teaching credential. So Teach for America and Los Angeles had a program where you could get your master's degree and your teaching credential through Loyola Marymount University. So I did that. I was working full time, and then in the evening and in the summers we actually had classes. That was the very first part of like graduate school. Became a teacher. I taught for I taught for several years, and then I became an administrator. And then I knew that I wanted to, at that time, I still wanted to be a professor, so I began to prepare myself for the actual PhD. At that time, I thought I wanted to work at a top research institution, and it's very important. I mean, depending on where you want to go at this particular like phase where you are right now, you have to really be very strategic and deliberate about how you're going to go to these particular schools. So the top schools at the time were Stanford, UCLA, Michigan, and what else did I apply? There was Teachers College and University of Wisconsin and Madison. Those were the top. So I thought, okay, I'm pretty smart. Let me get myself together, kind of figure out like what I need. I went back and revisited the GRE. I did pretty much like the same that I had as an undergrad. Not much had like changed, except from that point, it used to be a paper test, and then it became online. And I pretty much performed in the same percentile, but that was another process. So retook the GRE, did well. I applied, and my choices were UCLA and Stanford. At the time, I was a full-time administrator for the Compton Unified School District, and so when I looked at the financial aid packages that they actually provided for me, it was kind of a no-brainer. They both offered the same, but I didn't need to leave like Southern California. Everything was like here. I could just go to UCLA, which is over in Westwood, and I lived in Baldwin Hills, Ladera Heights area. So I was like, okay, this is like pretty much like what I'm going to do. And that was, I think, primarily just focusing on the GRE based on where I wanted to go and making sure that I had a really good score, and then that, as well as making sure that my undergraduate and graduate like record with respect to like my GPA was competitive enough so that I could get funding.
Brilliant.
All right. My journey was a little different. I graduated with my bachelor's in social work. I ended up working 2 part-time jobs. I worked as a field supervisor for a college outreach program, and then I also worked as a resident service coordinator for a senior living facility. After graduating in May, by the time I made it to September, I realized that I was going to have to go and get my master's because I just wasn't going to be able to have the lifestyle I wanted to have without pursuing a further degree. I applied in October of 2012 after graduating in May. I was accepted by December, and then I was on the road from there.
So, getting into graduate school is one thing, but what helped you get through graduate school?
Yeah, sure. And I sort of went rogue when I was in the master's program. I had an advisor that was laying out my courses for me, and she wanted to make a 2-year program. And I felt I could do it quicker. And so I started enrolling into classes without her knowledge. And I knocked it out in a year and a half. And I also took some courses towards my administrative credential, which I saw were in line with the master's degree as well. So I was taking more courses than I was advised to take, but I still maintained 3.8 GPA, taking all those courses at the same time. And I can handle it. And I would advise that for everyone, depending on what your workload is at work, and trying to balance that with schooling. But I felt I could handle it, and I did. But what I did was that made it a successful process was create a schedule. Once I did that and mapped out when I was going to study, when I was going to read, when I was going to the library, when I was going to do research, and so forth. Once I did that and sort of mapped out all the things that I needed to get done, made it an easier process, and had to have a will also to stick to that schedule. So that was the main thing that got me through it, was developing a schedule and sticking to it. Because I was working full time at the same time.
Your background as a teacher's aide and then working in education, my sense is all those things kind of come together. Because sometimes when you're in graduate school, you may be studying one thing and then have a job that's completely different. But when they're all together, that makes it a little easier to do.
That's a great point. So since my work that I was already involved with, which was teaching, and my master's degree was in education, and it hit on a lot of the content area that we were already being trained with my job. So they were very closely aligned. A lot of what I learned in my master's program, I used in my job. A lot of what I learned through my job, I was able to apply to the work I was doing in the master's program. So that helped a lot, tremendously.
James Johnson.
So essentially, my student worker job turned into my master's degree, and eventually built my career as an education technologist. So what got me through it was also kind of having that job experience and being able to talk to people. So my biggest thing, as far as grad school, whether it was going from my master's or going from my PhD, my biggest hurdle, I would say, that was consistent across the board, as far as getting through grad school, is how much I didn't know about the different intricacies about politics, relationships, the power differential between a student and a professor, this full-time professor versus this lecturer and associate. So I came across a lot of landmines as far as just graduate school. And so what helped me get through that, I latched on to people who knew, latched on to people who could help me navigate some of that. So fraternity brothers, but for a few who I've leaned on to this day, it's kind of like, how do you go about this? How do you go about doing that? And that really helped me. I mean, once you start identifying people who can help you maneuver some of this, there's some things that you're just not going to know. So it just helps to have a conversation with people who do know. So going to, oh man, I mean, there's so much, like as far as I could write a book on just how to get through graduate school, but as far as my master's, I think the job experience helped me the most. And then as far as the PhD goes, I was also in a college town in the middle of nowhere. So it was hard for me to even have an outlet as far as coming from, the Bay Area, Oakland, California, and then coming from Los Angeles. So there's all types of festivals and things to get into that kind of like feed your spirit. It would, no matter like what that is, and going to a place that doesn't have that. So yeah, you can be an academic, a good portion throughout the day, but you still need to have your outlet. So once you identify what type of person you are, as well as, why did you set out on this journey in the first place? Because there's going to be, they have this thing they keep calling an imposter syndrome, where you have to keep questioning yourself. Should I be here? Am I good enough? And so that's so real, man. Because once you get into graduate school, you're going to ask yourself, oh, did they make a mistake in allowing me to come to this school? But a lot of it is just because you're learning the ropes. And so once you get comfortable and understand that you're supposed to be there, once you get comfortable and understand like what your purpose is, that will help you get through graduate school. So I don't want to talk too much, but that's what helped me get through graduate school, is just kind of learning the different types of relationships and how to maneuver.
Thank you. Stanley.
For me, I think also too from earlier what I forgot to touch upon, and Brother Gamble talked about it earlier. There's a statement of purpose that you all will have to write when you apply to graduate school. I think to me that is probably, in hindsight, the most important piece of the process. I mean, yes, you have to have a GPA, yes, you have to demonstrate leadership and some other aspect or whatever. But I think when you really are very specific and are clear and concise about what it is that you want to study, what you mean in terms of just surviving. That's the question now, right? Like,
how did you make it through?
Yeah, how did I make it through? I think I feel on one level I was very confident, but I've always been a very strong writer. Writing is going to be very, very, very important. And again, some of my peers I know struggle initially. I mean, that doesn't mean that you can't write, but there's a different type of writing. There's a type of kind of approach that you have to take, not just with respect to like formatting, i.e. APA style and things of that nature, but it's a sustained type of writing that is required to be able to analyze and take and unpack a lot. So just being able to write, that's what got me through. And just to keep it real, funding. I had funding. I think people don't want to talk about those particular realities but if you have like the finances or however you get it, that is one less thing that you need to be worried about. And I actually had really good advisors, who were there with me from the beginning all the way through, and even now to this day are still very supportive.
Yes.
Okay, so the biggest thing that helped me get through grad school was support. My advisor for my program was also my same advisor for my undergraduate degree. She kind of helped me get into social work. My family and friends kind of like huddled around me, and like it became like our dream. So there was like no quitting, like, because I wasn't just doing it for me. Like, we were getting a degree, not just me. So that was big, like in those times where I really just didn't want to go to school anymore. And then I worked in college outreach. I'm a believer in education. You have to lead by example. So I'm telling my kids, like, you need to pursue higher education, and you should be doing this. And at the same time, I feel like that I need to lead by that example and be doing it myself. So literally for me, it was a lot about like support and creating those avenues, finding people who had done it. Dr. Gamble was one of my strongest advocates and mentors, and he's like, you got this. Like, slow down, think it through, and like you're gonna get through it. So I think like wherever you end up for grad school, just making sure you create that niche or that environment for you to be successful.
The next question is, what do you know now? And I think Dr. James Johnson had kind of talked about that a little bit, but what do you know now that you wish you had known before graduate school? So we'll start again with Dr. Sirls.
I really wish I had known how beneficial it was going to be, because I waited 14 years to go back to grad school after I got my BA. Didn't realize the potential that was available as a result of getting my master's and my doctorate degree. Otherwise, I would have done it immediately. So I just basically wish I had known more about how the benefits would play out. Secondly, both the master's program and the doctorate program have changed my outlook on my profession. As I said before, I'm an educator. And what I know now has really turned my whole career around in regard to my thought process as I approach my job. And that's been the biggest benefit of all. Again, wish I could have done it earlier, I would have done things differently as a teacher. But just being in that arena with other people who are also doing research with you and learning and sharing information, just like it set off a new light inside my head that prompted me to just do things differently, and it's helped me tremendously as an educator. So if I had known all this was going to be possible before I came to grad school, I would have done it much earlier.
Dr. James Johnson. I just like saying that. I'll say it again, Dr. James Johnson.
I'm still getting used to it.
I hear you.
For me, I made a lot of mistakes, so I think a lot of it for me was just the do's and don'ts of graduate school. I know we're just talking about how writing, this idea of, the level of writing increases, and just there's a level of expectation. And so I never forget, one of my professors said, you know what, you're writing this like it's a science project, or you're writing this, and it sounds like it's more of an assignment than a scholarly piece. And I was like, whoa, it just kind of threw me. So I thought I put everything into it, but it's that graduate school sophistication that you kind of pick up by one, being grown by a mentor, or interacting with other people who know how the academic circle works. And so that's one thing I also don't know, would save me a lot of embarrassment. Also, if you're really interested in like race, gender, sexuality, those type of topics, one thing for me that kind of threw me off was just kind of, I read something and it was kind of like, when you study race, sexuality, gender, things like that, it's a one-way passport into understanding that's going to run counter with the people you've been hanging with for all these years. So now that I have this education and I've been reading these things, one thing about now that I have this education behind me and I know pretty much, I guess, air quotes, like what's right and what's wrong, and moving appropriately, it's kind of another mentor of mine said, you know, you have to take your scholarship seriously. So what does that mean? You know, whether you are a social worker, working in a particular type of community, or if you're interested in women's studies, or if your population that you work with is of a marginalized group, what does that mean in your friends and family? Are they going to understand that? And so I think for me, it's just kind of that realization of my work isn't always going to be popular with the majority of people. So that's it.
Dr. Stanley Johnson.
What do I know? What did I know?
Yeah. What do you know now that you wish you had known before?
I would say the biggest thing has a lot to do with the relationships, or the potential relationships of the people who are going to agree to be your faculty advisors when you enter into your graduate program. I found more than anything that some of my other friends who were in school, they have already developed a very really good rapport with our advisors years before. You know, so on one level, I mean, I'm not saying that they just got in just by getting in because they knew the person, right? But I also think that that person's kind of capital enabled them to make a decision and say, I definitely want to work with this student, and I'm going to help and continue to support them throughout this particular process. So I would say, you know, just building relationships, spending a lot of time. I think it sounds kind of strange, but it's almost like you want to interview the potential faculty that you eventually will be going to school, right? Because you want to make certain that is a good fit for you. You know, on one level, we read about these wonderful scholars and seeing the different work that they do, but you don't necessarily know how they are, you know, day to day, or will they be able to support you? Are they extremely popular where they are never at the university, you know, and you're going to need that type of support. So I would say think about how you can, you know, develop that, but also take a lot of time to find out who those individuals are. If you're planning on going to school here in Southern California, you know, make an appointment. A lot of them are available to speak with you even before you apply to the school, just to come and talk and get a feel for what it is that you're doing, and making certain that when you apply, citing specific information in your statement of purpose, that kind of give them a chance to say, oh yeah, they're familiar with my work, or this individual wants to take this part of my work and build upon it, or they want to add a new, fresher ideas to this particular type of theory. Those things I think are critical and important.
Dr. Keyon Anderson in 2019.
All right. for me, I really suffered from the imposter syndrome both times I started grad school. Back in 2013 and in August of 2016. There's something in my mind, like, I share my story with other crowds, but like, I have a learning disability. So like, it took me a really long time to learn how to read. So typically when I started at the beginning of both of my programs, I kind of felt like that 14-year-old kid who couldn't read again. And I'm like, all of these people have all this knowledge and all this resource and these experiences that I don't have. And I think that the thing that I learned, like, at least by now in my doctorate program, is that I'm enough. Like, it wasn't by chance. And like, those people who I thought were smarter than me, they're not all smarter than me. So I think that, like, just really acknowledging, like, you know, the growth and development that you've had as a person in your journey, and recognizing that you deserve to be in every room that you're in. And I think the other thing that I've learned in both of my degrees is taking ownership of, like, what I'm paying for. So my attitude about, like, who my advisors are and what I want to get out of the experience it's not passive. So when I think about, like, who I would like to chair my dissertation, I know very specifically I want someone who's gonna, like, you know, be very tough on me, because I kind of need that. If someone's too lenient, that's not exactly gonna help me put forth my best effort. So kind of taking ownership of that and looking for faculty and professors who will make the experience better for you.
So we open up for questions, and I'm sure you may have a few. So, yes, anyone? Yeah. If you can tell us your name and your major.
Yes, I'm Keyon. I'm a second year here, and I'm a communication studies major with a minor in marketing. And so thank you guys for coming and talking about graduate school, because I didn't know what the difference was when I got working to college. Or I knew what it was, but I wasn't, because my sister graduated from UC Riverside, so I wasn't sure as to like what the differences particularly were, and what, like, which one was more demanding than not. And so I'm sorry if you guys already answered this question, but I'm going to ask what like separates someone that is like an undergraduate student versus someone that's a graduate student versus a PhD student. Like, what's the difference between like undergraduate studies versus graduate studies? Is the material like more rigorous, or are you like, I don't know, do you have access to different types of information?
Well, the programs you mentioned are just different levels of education and something. So, 4-year universities require you to graduate from high school. A master's degree requires a BA before you get that. A doctorate degree requires a BA and a master's degree with that. So as you move up to those different levels, I would say it gets more rigorous. It gets it's a different type of approach to your learning. And it's also is at the graduate level is self-directed. So you really direct your learning path, whereas the undergrad, it's more of a lecture, take notes, and get involved with that type of collaboration. But the master's degree takes you independent learning at a different level. And then, of course, the doctorate degree is pretty much all of it. You're really conducting the research. You're talking about what it is you want to do your research project on. You create that. You name it, you create it, and then you go out and find all the information you can and follow these set of guidelines to report back on that. And you become the expert on whatever it is you choose to write about. So it's all education, it's all academic, and it's all teaching and learning wrapped in one, but it's just different levels of that as you move up.
Yeah, I had a question. My name is, you said name, major, and what else? That's it. Okay. My name is Justin Bradley, double major in African Studies and Religious Studies, and a minor in Communications. I went to go to law school, so I don't know how different the process is, and I guess some of the material discussed or that you learn in law school opposed to grad school. So I don't know if you all could speak on that initially. And secondly, this is the first time I've been introduced to the term imposter syndrome. So if you could maybe elaborate that on a little bit more, so I can kind of wrap my head around exactly what that is.
I'll take the first one
about
law school and what the rest of them, especially since they brought it up. But my brother-in-law just got accepted to law school, and so I've talked with him quite a bit about that process. He lives in Houston, which has 2 or 3 really excellent law schools. He's been looking at the University of Virginia, Howard University, a couple other places. But his main issue was, and we have a brother-in-law as well, who is already a lawyer. So he got advice from him. And kind of what you've been hearing about is talk to people who are already in the profession, talk to people who are already at those universities. They're available sometimes during office hours. I get contacts all the time for graduate school. And I'm more than happy to talk with students because we want students definitely to apply and also to come to our program. The LSAT is, at least from when I talk to lawyers, that's the issue.
Right.
Once you get in, you're going to get in, you're going to work, and they're going to make sure you make it through because they want you to finish to pay back the loans.
Yeah.
But the LSAT is part of the biggest piece. I would also say join a professional organization, those lawyers who I know who are doing really well. Whether they're fraternity brothers of mine or not, but they're doing really well. They're actively involved in various professional organizations. I think it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, with that connection of the work that you're already doing. If that's connected, that helps when it comes to law school. So
Okay.
another person to talk to is Langston.
Yeah, Langston. I talk to him all the time.
Yeah.
Langston.
Langston just got into law school.
What do you? Howard. You just got Howard.
He's on his way to Howard. He's a
Good.
member of Phi Beta Sigma.
Absolutely. Good.
Good guy.
So, okay, cool. And then we can go to the imposter syndrome a little bit.
No.
Because I kind of want to focus on the law school piece specifically, but because I'm like currently battling between a few things. So my questions after, or my next questions are: do you think that it's best for African Americans to perhaps go to law schools that are at HBCUs? Is there more of a support system there in terms of helping African Americans navigate through law school or grad school?
I'm an HBCU grad. However, you go where is going to be the best fit for you. You're interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing you. So you find what's going to fit your need to finish school. So that's kind of a piece. So at HBCU, you may find people more aligned with your interests if that is your particular interest. But they may or may not have the funding that you need or support. Law school doesn't always have the funding and support because their expectation is that you're going to make that money back. Generally. The other thing about law school, I would say, is that it's like an MD program. It's much more like you have to memorize a lot. So classes are much more direct in competition. You're not always writing about a particular expert subject matter. You will specialize, whereas a PhD program, there's seminars, it's a little more fluid, but sometimes there's competition even within those programs. Law school is, in essence, competition, so they encourage and promote that too.
Right. A couple of my best friends are attorneys, and so they've gone to law school. They go to HBCUs, but one of the things that one of my brothers, Preston, constantly is talking about is we talk about the difference between like the GRE and the LSAT. I mean, obviously they're standardized exams, but there's a completely different approach. The LSAT, for example, it's a lot of specific like critical thinking and logic approaches. Sure, this is what you already know, if not have already been thinking about, and so you really want to make certain that you are rigorously preparing yourself, like in that particular regard. I mean, again, writing is very critical in that particular aspect. In terms of like your coursework, as Dr. Gamble said, some of my friends have mentioned like when they're in a course, you're studying, say, whatever the branch of law or whatever it is that you're doing, but it's really more about like your argument, and how you find, say, gaps in a particular issue. I mean, like if something happens and there's a crime scene or whatever, you're going to get the information, but how are you, if you have to present that in a court, deductively, going to reach your conclusions? I think
just want to reiterate the best fit part, because I have two friends as well. One went to CU in Atlanta, the other one went to a traditional university, and both of them went very well. And the gentleman is an attorney majoring in sociology. So I remember you were asking about how do you transition, I guess, from here in the undergrad program to law school. You majored in sociology, but went to go to grad school immediately after, and was able to do so. I don't know the exact path he took, but I do know that was his undergrad major, and he was able to transition easily into law school, and still receives a lot of support from his school as he was going through the bar process, in particular bar, and that went well. The other young lady, I think she went to, it seemed like it was a traditional school, and she's worked for the district attorney in Los Angeles here, and she's doing very well. And so just contrasting the two different schools that they went to, both of them are doing well. So I don't think, like I said, like Brother Brandon Gamble said, it really depends on what's the best fit for you, and you really want to check that out and find out if the school right for you before you make that commitment.
Okay, thank you.
Going back to imposter syndrome, Dr. James Johnson, I think you had mentioned that a little earlier, and I know Keyon touched on it as well.
The imposter syndrome.
And that's kind of a newer term. When I was in graduate school, folks weren't talking about it.
Okay.
And as much. They were talking about different things, but not this exact issue.
The imposter syndrome is pretty much when you are in an environment with a bunch of achievers, high achievers at that, and certain instances happen where you start questioning your own abilities. So for graduate school, especially if you're talking about law school, because it's naturally a competitive environment, there are going to be moments where even when you give it your best, you're going to say like, dang, this person kind of did it better or did it in a way that kind of showed me up a little bit. And I don't want to make it seem like it's a competition. You know, grad school is this huge competition and that you're competing against other people. However, people are in graduate school and they're not playing. You know, whether it's international students, and a lot of people come to school for a lot of reasons. There's a lot behind, you know, why people are obtaining these type of degrees. And so, as far as the imposter syndrome, it's kind of real in the sense of you feeling a certain type of way, and it's really just a mind game with yourself, though. And it's like you definitely deserve to be there. However, there's a lot going on that's gonna make you stumble here and there, and you just have to get yourself back up and keep going. But it's a mental thing. So you feel like a fraud, you feel like an imposter. Like, do I belong in graduate school? Do I belong in this law program? Do I belong in this PhD program? And that's what they mean by imposter syndrome. It's this internalized mental game that you have because you sometimes feel, as somebody who takes success seriously, you sometimes start to question your own abilities. And the imposter is this idea that you have upon yourself. So.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Do you have anyone else have anything to add on imposter syndrome?
I have an example. My second week into my doctorate program at USC, we're reading articles and you synthesize, you take notes. Particular student was able to cite exactly it was the 17th line on this page, and I'm like, whoa, I'm never gonna be able to do that, just off of raw memory. And in that same class, our professor was talking about an article that we read, and we were sharing our perspectives, and she kind of did I wonder what she would think about that, because something someone said didn't necessarily align with what she felt like the researcher would think. And she was like, I'll ask her the next time we're at dinner. And in my mind, I'm like, this is the first time I've been in the classroom where my professors know the researchers that well. So immediately I feel like that there's a huge difference between me and her and my ability to be there and perform well.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a question that's shifting gears a little bit. What are some of the strategies that you guys use to take care of yourself during graduate school? To take the mental health component, what are some of the strategies that you use to deal with the rigors of graduate studies?
I went to therapy. I knew I needed to go because I'm going to be the first in my family to go to graduate school. This is a completely different type of stress. And it wasn't just graduate school, it was earn a doctorate degree. My father was going to do it, but he made a choice not to spend more time at home with me. He was an educator at Dr. Sirls, and he had a chance to do a doctorate program, but he didn't. So to me, there was a lot of family stuff mixed up in it. So I said, all right, I'm going to go once a month. And sure enough, I needed it because it was an alternate reality. These people at the university did very different things than people K through 12 where I worked. So, yeah.
I had 2 kids that were still pretty young at the time. They helped me balance my tight schedule. So any free time I had between work and studying, I got with them, and they always made it an easy process for me to get back to work. I had to plan around with them. So it was my family.
James? Go ahead, Sam.
I'm a tennis player. Haven't played much because I hurt my back recently, but I used to play a lot of tennis stuff just to kind of get away and hang out with friends.
For me, I kind of did like a 180 as far as life. I moved. I had a roommate. I ended up moving in an apartment by myself so that I could focus. I got a dog so that I could have something that would make me get out of the house on days where I'm studying because I keep need to go to the restroom. And I moved by the beach, so like I did things that were like very intentional so that I would have some type of outlet. Like I have to walk my dog. I have to get out of the house. I'm at the beach, and it was kind of like self-care built into my life.
Brother Johnson?
Those of you who are my Facebook friends, you guys know I was in CrossFit very heavily at one point.
Yeah.
I think you have to really break away from the computer. Break away from the computer, break away from your phone, break away from social media. I think you just gotta get back to the basics just to clear your head. It's gonna be very writing intensive, so you need to be able to pull away, and you'll be surprised about being how productive it is to not do anything. So you can just relax, have a day where you just don't do anything, and you'd be surprised about how your ideas and how what you've learned start to connect when you just give yourself that time to walk the dog and just to relax and be outside. That's what I did.
I have one more question.
One more question.
But I don't know if you were close on time or not.
We'll work it out. Go ahead.
Well, it was back into the law school thing. I wanted to I guess I'm currently battling whether if I want to study civil rights law or international human rights law. And I guess my effort in choosing one, it wants to be what would be of more benefit to the African American community. So based on just like your experience and exposure and people you've met, what specific field of law would you suggest to a 23-year-old graduating senior?
What were those choices again? You said
Civil rights law or international human rights law?
I would suggest international. And not so much, it's more a practical reason. International law, it has to do, right now, like we were talking about the job situation with black people in graduate school, I don't know if you caught that part earlier, but having an international background just makes you more employable and also gives you a much better context. Even in the graduate courses I'm teaching now, we're applying more international context to what we're doing. That's my more practical suggestion right now.
What about languages?
Yeah.
Say it again.
Languages.
What languages are you taking up? a big thing is really understanding the culture.
Yeah.
You know, because once you start getting into the critical race theory and the critical global and all this other stuff, you really want to be able to talk the language of the communities that you're protecting.
My brother-in-law, he taught for a year in Korea, which has really enhanced his perspective, but I think will definitely add to him when he's in
Travel abroad, so
Yeah.
what do you got? Abroad.
I think as far as developing content, just going international will help you learn things that maybe that you cannot conceptualize within the context of America. So there are things that are working in communities where people are poor all around the world, and having the opportunity to be exposed to that can bring you tools and resources to bring home in order to help your people.
That's my time.
All right.
Yeah.
A couple pieces of real quick advice. Don't wait too long after you get your undergrad degree. Don't wait too long to go back and get into grad school. That's one thing I regret. And I see this young man right here, and he started right off, and he continuous cycle for him, and he kept going. It's one thing I wish I had done. My salary is something I never thought I would make. Going into grad school when I first started, I never thought I would make the salary I am now. If I had known that, I started in 4th grade. But don't stop. If you can, keep going and get it done right away. And then at the same time, if you go for your doctorate degree, and law school included, try to find ways of funding that can support you, so that you don't have to pay a lot of this money back. The doctorate program is very expensive, but there are ways now that you can find some additional funding and scholarships to help you get through that. If you can, start looking for them early, and that'll help you tremendously. It's not a lot of fun paying back student loans over and over year after year. All right.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, so I guess we're taking pictures.